Joining me today is Kelly De La Torre co-hosting, and we're having this great conversation with Connie Duckworth from ARZU.
Amazing about overcoming challenges and really keeping on moving forward and achieving your goals.
Yeah, and just the whole concept of coming out of this big corporate world.
Yeah.
And then Connie shifts gears and says, you know what, we're going into social enterprise, and we are going to change the way women are empowered in Afghanistan, and she just goes and does it. Connie, welcome back.
Thank you.
I love that.
Oh yeah, it's been such an amazing conversation, and I think what I want to circle back on from the first half is this point of, yeah, there are going to be barriers, but there are ways to overcome them, and really you have to have perseverance to enter this world, and just the ability to look at those challenges in a different way. And so could you just maybe summarize that for those who weren't listening in the beginning?
I think that part of the challenges that come at you when you're organizing a social business is that you sometimes just can't make this stuff up. Things just happen. Yeah. And so we like to celebrate small victories, really small victories. If a girl graduates from high school, we have a ceremony. We provide food. That always gets a good crowd. So it's inches along, and then we fall back, and then we inch along again. But I think we all keep our nose so pressed up against the window that we sometimes fail to see the progress. So it does take pulling back and saying, well, hey, we actually did all these things this year which were really great. So I think you have to have a sense of optimism. You have to be very perseverant, and you have to be willing to just sort of roll with the punches. And I'll give you a quick example of that. We started to do custom pieces for the commercial world, for socially responsible corporations. This was a big step for us. Retooled our supply chain, custom colors, many iterations. So we finally get our little box of samples, which we were going to have sent by an air carrier over for approval. Their office got blown up with our box in it. Now, what did we learn from that? Well, we learned that we now make like 6 sets of samples, and we spread them all around, and we keep one set in our office in Chicago just in case. We still made the deadline, but the funny part was about 9 months later, there's a knock on our door in the Kabul office, and there's this little courier that has this kind of charred box, and when they were digging out the rubble, they came across our box of samples, and they returned it to us. You can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't.
So in the previous segment, we were also talking about the energy issues, about getting energy out to these places, and that you're talking low tech. And to give that some context, we have on the show, we've had on many times the military talking about their energy use, and actually their energy use in Afghanistan, and how it's these fuel and water convoys that get hit because of the dangerous roads that they have to take in. They have amazing technologies that are reducing their water use by 75% or more, and also actually making it so that they don't really have to transport fuel out because it's all solar powered and all of these other things. So it's such a harsh environment, but there are these solutions. And so I know that you're already working with the military already. There may be some ways to collaborate also with the military to help test some of these technologies, which would be an interesting kind of collaboration as well.
Being able to be a test guinea pig is a phenomenal opportunity for us, because we do have a footprint where we can control the circumstances of the test, and the needs are so great in these communities. One area which just came to mind as you were talking about this is, as the military leaves, I imagine they're going to leave behind a lot of stuff, and I would love to see the ability to integrate some of the systems, the water reduction systems, the solar systems. Nothing should go to waste. All of that should be redeployed into some of these distant communities. It would be life-changing for these communities. We have a few things that are solar paneled but maybe we have 15 panels and it's just enough to run certain lights. But for these villagers, it's out of the reach of, cost-wise, of anything that they could probably entertain for themselves.
Right. Interesting. We'll have to. That's one of the things that ICOSA does best is bring the right people together so that we can all move forward, and that seems like a very critical area.
Absolutely, and and as Kelly said, collaboration is sort of this underlying foundation of who we are at ICOSA, and I know that ARZU's really created some really fantastic collaborative efforts around the country with design and all of that. Can you talk about some of that award-winning work that's gone on in terms of the collaborative partnerships you guys have built?
We really do have a motto of partner or die. We consider ourselves a startup. We know we have very limited resources and very little expertise in most of the areas in which we're working. So it's wonderful to have collaborations. On the design side, we are collaborating in several ways with our probably most ambitious collaboration, which is just in the process of launching, is a collaboration with 6 of the world's most iconic architects.
Wow.
And these include Frank Gehry, Robert A.M. Stern, Michael Graves, Zaha Hadid, Stanley Tigerman, and his wife Margaret McCurry. They each have designed new patterns that represent their own creative genius and gifted them to ARZU so that the sales from those very special rugs will support ARZU's mission. So that's an example to see the linkage between people who are designing buildings all over the world, and again, these women in the middle of nowhere Afghanistan, but the skill they bring to this rug medium just blows my mind. But on the other end, on the social program side, we also always collaborate there because we look for organizations that are doing interesting things. And one example in the energy area is, and these are all small things, but I believe could be replicated anywhere there's a U.S. embassy. Why? Because through another organization called Afghans for Tomorrow, who developed this means of making, in effect, fake fireplace logs that are low carbon burning and making fuel available in countries that are deforested, which Afghanistan is. You take paper and cardboard and it's all manually mixed and torn and hand pressed and dried. We trained 12 women as apprentices in our test summer, and they made 75,000 briquettes. Wow. The next year we had 40 women and they made 400,000 briquettes. And so we bag these and we fuel all our ARZU buildings with these. They burn with a 30% lower carbon footprint than wood. And then we now sell them to other, the governor and other offices in the area. But where do we get shredded paper in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan? Well, here's where the collaboration comes in. We called the U.S. Embassy and said, what do you do with your paper? By law, you have to shred it. And they said, we dump it in a landfill. And so they were also looking at greening initiatives for the embassy. So it was just this perfect confluence of desires and needs where it's a total win-win for everyone. But I think anywhere there's a U.S. embassy, briquette making could be a local endeavor.
That is amazing. And if there are listeners out there that are listening and think, oh my gosh, I have an energy idea, could they actually go to your website and submit something and say, I think that this would be a good business idea for Afghanistan? Or
Absolutely. We would love to. We always love to hear ideas. We know enough about what's possible in Afghanistan that we can help frame the idea, and some things may not be possible there, but might be possible in, say, Africa or a place with a different environment. But we love to hear the ideas, and if they just go to info@ on our website, it'll definitely get to me.
Okay,
so
yeah,
we'd
that's great.
love to hear those ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure that this conversation will spark many ideas of people. It sparked a million over here in this chair.
Well, and I'm hoping our listeners are saying, wow, I can do something with that, and I can go forward. And when you and I first spoke, Connie, we had so much fun talking, because last year ICOSA was working in Afghanistan with our NATO forces, doing what you were talking about, where the military goes in and tries to sort of help with this economic development foundation, so that when we do leave, that we've set it up so that they're functional. And it's a tough place to do business. It's a tough place to do anything, as you've said. But you and I talked about this, and we've always partnered with the National Ski Areas Association, which is all the ski areas here in North America. There's 323, and we have winter coats. I mean, it's something that doesn't go really with the mission of ARZU, but I have about 10,000 winter coats sitting on a dock that I need to put somewhere. And Connie said, well, I have hundreds of women that live in the caves of Afghanistan because there's no housing, there's no heat. These women and their children are freezing to death in some cases. And so we're trying to put together this collaborative here from ICOSA and CAP with ARZU as well. So
you know, it really does fit with the mission of ARZU, because when I think about creating an ecosystem for success, it starts with a job, without question. Because in a place like Afghanistan, I would argue in a place like America, when a woman can control her own income, her status in the household rises, and she has the opportunity to be more independent and have more authority and control over her own situation. That is, we've seen that, and we have detailed biographies and histories of our families, and we see this process unfolding, which has been not something we anticipated, but an amazing surprise. So it starts with a job, but in order for the family to really be able to pull itself out of poverty, you can't just pick one thing. You have to address education. That's the investment in the future for both the children and the women. Our women are all reading, writing, and doing math at a 5th grade level now. And they know when they're getting cheated in the marketplace, because they can add and subtract. They express to us that some of their greatest pleasures in life are being able to read, or being able to listen to the radio and understand a political discussion. Then there's health care. If the kids are too sick, or the women are too sick from drinking dirty water, you got to figure out a way to get the pathogens out of the water. It's a water-constrained country, so how do you minimize use of water and maximize its potential? And so housing and heat is an essential component of really what, when you think about, you know, dust off the memory banks for Maslow's hierarchy of needs, until a human being can address the basic needs of food, water, shelter, clothing, their minds cannot process second-order needs. Well, one of those second-order needs is security, and I translate in Afghanistan security to equal peace. And so until we get a basic floor under these human needs, and freezing to death is definitely a need that these coats will eliminate. It will be life-saving for many people this year, this winter in Afghanistan. It's phenomenal.
Well, and I was stunned when you said to me that you have hundreds of women and children living in caves. I mean, I'm thinking, who do we know that builds smaller houses that can withstand what's going on there? I mean, that to me is just stunning in this day and age, but it's happening.
And one of the neatest new test projects we've done is a building technique using dirt, plastic bags, and some barbed wire, and it's called super adobe, and it was invented by an Iranian architect who has now subsequently passed away, but he trained people in Barstow in California. And it's the idea of, you know, when you were little or your kids were little and they roll snakes of clay and they wind them around and make pots. It's think that, only bigger, with long plastic bags filled with dirt, and you wind it around and you stucco it. And this is this housing technique that is a fraction of the cost. It's local materials. So we've trained our first male work crew, construction crew, and we built 3 test models, and then thanks to a private donor, who was very interested in this issue of getting the families out of the caves, we received enough funding to build a small subdivision, which is underway, of 15 homes. And so there are endless things that can be done on the ground. It's a function of finding out what works in the local context. And we have to figure it out in Afghanistan, but people who are working in other places around the world, that's why that local, it's think global, act local. It's really important. But then as people who are interested in these kinds of things want to support organizations, we could keep building homes.
Sure.
And so it meets those basic needs.
And you're really taking this partnership mentality to a whole different level. And I think that's what's one of those best practices that comes from the ARZU story, is that you understand that partnering and working with others and using maximizing their expertise with your expertise and putting that together is really the best way to do this work. And I think that's just admirable and certainly a best practice in this area.
Yeah, and it also shows, let's celebrate these little successes. Let's celebrate the delivery of the coats. Let's celebrate the new type of building structure, and just keep building one little inch at a time. And amazing things can happen from when you started to now. It's incredible.
And what we find is the ripple effect. We may be only directly impacting certain thousands of people, but the ripple effect to the villages surrounding and to their relatives, you just never know how far it's going to go. And it travels both through geography and through time because of generational impact. The young girls that are the daughters of our weavers who are in school, who are talking on cell phones, they may have to walk a mile to get close enough to a tower to make a call. But I have a 16-year-old daughter. Her favorite thing is talking on a cell phone. These children, these girls and boys, have different expectations about what they want their lives to be.
Yeah.
And that's how I think the ripple effect travels through time generationally.
Absolutely. I want to shift gears a little bit, Connie, and talk about some of the new stuff that you guys are doing at ARZU. Kelly was just telling me that Governor Hickenlooper talked about Colorado becoming and being the friendliest military and veterans employment state anywhere in the country, and we certainly are one of those top 5, I would guess, with all of the military contractors that are here, as well as all of the bases that run right through here in the Rocky Mountains. And Connie, I know that ARZU is engaging in a new project that is out there supporting some of that. And can you talk a little bit about the Peace Corps project and what you guys are doing with that and just the sort of overview of that?
In addition to our big product, which are the rugs, I was invited by the commanding general of the Marine Surge in Helmand Province to embed with the Marines and to give some advice on the ground about how to interact with locals. And out of that came sort of a challenge. Can you think of a product for unskilled women to make? And this was the product. Peace Cord came out of that week at 130 degrees in Helmand Province.
I love them.
And
I love them too. They're really neat.
We hope these become the new Livestrong, and really they're made of parachute cord. And Kelly has this is the Navy model, the gold insignia button from the Navy, but we do them for all 5 of the services with their authentic uniform button. And it's really a way to show affiliation with military individuals, family members, just general support. And you support women's empowerment. Women are the community builders and women are the peacemakers. And that's a pretty powerful combination if we want to help resolve some of these conflict hotspots around the world. So that, to me, is what Peace Cord symbolizes. Mm-hmm. And it's about hope, and it's a little thing. This little product is 150 new jobs for women who are either too elderly to weave or those who don't have the skills to weave. So they're supporting their families by weaving Peace Cords. And these sell for the buttons, the brass buttons are $15, and we have plastic military from the uniforms, the fatigue uniforms. Those
Sure.
are $10.
So how can people learn more about this? Like, let's say, a Buckley Air Force Base or Fort Carson or something says, this is really neat. What do they do? How do they engage? How do they say, I want Navy, or I want Air Force or whatever? How does that work?
They can go to our peacecorps.org website, and it'll tell them a lot about the projects it supports and a lot about the background, and show all of our various models. And the other really neat thing, which is a new endeavor now that we've gotten Peace Corps production up to a critical mass, is we like nothing better than to partner with other nonprofit organizations who can use Peace Corps as their own fundraiser for their own mission, because we'll wholesale.
Sure.
Because what
very
we're
nice.
trying to do is employ these women. And so we'll make a small amount, but then the organization can effectively make the retail margin by selling to their members, or think of 10K races, any kind of affinity group. We have schools doing this, and it's a great way for them. I mean, I have 4 kids. I've bought candy bars, calendars. I still have wrapping paper
Popcorn and wrapping paper.
from when my son was in elementary school, and he's working now. He graduated from college. I'm still using that wrapping paper. So to me, this is just a more meaningful little product that can be a great fundraising tool. Again, win-win.
Yeah, and I know that there's discussions going on with the University of Denver, University of Colorado, and a couple of organizations here in the Colorado area to bring Peace Corps. Now, I see in the description that the proceeds go to help the Afghan women, but it's also to help our troops directly benefit the Afghan people. So this is working for their economic development programs for our military resources on the ground over there as we exit, correct?
And their humanitarian work as well. And as we exit the future, who knows what will happen.
Right.
But I think, again, it's the combination of empowering women and in some way supporting our troops. Together, we'll figure out how to do that.
Absolutely. And again, it's peacecorps.org to learn about it, or to find out how your organization, school, business, military branch.
These make great little de minimis corporate gifting items too.
They're
instead
great.
of another box of candy.
Yep, that's true too. And what a great lesson for the kids. If you're so I have 2 elementary school kids, and my son collected all his Halloween candy to send to the troops.
Yes,
and all the Halloween
wonderful
candy
program.
from the school. But what an amazing thing for them to sell these and recognize the importance of creating jobs for women, empowering women, plus saying thank you to our military. It's just it's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a great win-win. Well, Connie, what's next for you guys and ARZU and you, and what's coming in the near to intermediate term?
Well, we're always testing new sort of grassroots social programs on the ground. So we'll be continuing that just like there's a fighting season in Afghanistan, there's a building season, and that's coming to a close. So we kind of regroup. But for me, where I spend most of my time is ARZU needs to be a highly profitable nonprofit, and we aren't there yet. Our mission is to self-fund 100% of not only the production of our products, but all of our back end. And through sales, we fund about half of that now. So we've had funding from grants from private foundations. We've had good support from the U.S. government up until this point. But now things are changing in that picture, and we are not going to have any more support for the U.S. government. So to me, that says we need to accelerate growth in sales. And then I'm also looking at some ideas for production partnerships where potentially because we have capacity of finest weavers in the world. Can we partner with commercial businesses who need woven rugs and weave private label for them?
Oh,
it would be another way to deploy our capacity while we continue to build our distribution.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it's funny because as we are often on the tour by groups who want to see what works in Afghanistan, whether it's our military or the Afghan politicians or military. We've been on Al Jazeera in a positive way for some of our social programs. And but I'm really focused on getting this thing profitable, because when we prove out this model, we will be able to, I think, be a prototype for organizations all over the world. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah. But if you had told me 10 years ago, the easy part would be getting this dog to hunt on the ground in Afghanistan, and everyone who comes through on these tours goes, we can't believe it. Wow, how do you do this?
Yeah.
Nothing works this well. That, we got that pretty much as under control as you can. And if you told me the hardest part would be reaching the conscious consumer with product with purpose, I would have said, oh, come on, that's got to be the easy part. But then think about the context of a small organization with no marketing budget, no advertising budget, no PR.
But you're doing it, and we love it.
Inch by inch.
Inch by inch, but you're still doing it. Connie Duckworth, thank you so much for being here and sharing the story of ARZU. Kelly, as always, thanks for coming in and co-hosting with me today.
Definitely my pleasure.
And to learn more about ARZU, go to ARZU, A-R-Z-U, studiohope.org, or to learn more about the Peace Corps and how your organization can engage with them, go to peacecorps.org. Thanks so much for joining us this weekend. Have a great day.